Today's video is brought to you by Oxedo LED lighting. You might think that you can see just fine at night. Well, I did too, until I did this little upgrade. As you can see from this footage, here is some before Oxedo LED lighting, and here is some after Oxedo LED lighting. The difference is amazing. With high brightness and easy installation, Oxedo LED lighting is definitely the route for you. They're easy to install, and they're available for all makes and models. Click on the link in the description below and enter promo code 612motorsports at checkout to get yourself 15% off. Now back to our video. Are the GMC Syclone and Typhoon poised to be high-end collectibles? In today's episode, we're gonna find out. Hello and welcome back to another episode of 612 Motorsports. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about one of the all-time most iconic truck series to be made, the GMC Typhoon and the GMC Syclone. But before we get too far into today's video, you guys know the routine. Please go ahead and hit that subscription button, the notification bell, leave a comment, a thumbs up. All that stuff is super helpful, and it's very greatly appreciated. Alright, let's get into today's video. Now, ever since I can remember being an S10 fan myself, from the time I was a young boy, seeing the Typhoon, the Syclone, knowing that they were all-wheel drive and had a turbo on them, was always something that just seemed like a mythical unicorn. You'd see one maybe, you'd hear about something, but it just always seemed just out of reach. Very cool vehicles. I found this little article on motortrend.com and I just wanted to share it with you. Being an S10 fanboy such as myself, I thought there's other people out there that would love to hear this as well. So let's get into it. Enjoy some photos of some of those beautiful iconic vehicles here as I read this. Once upon a time, General Motors decided to build the fastest pickup in the world. It was in the late 1980s, and the trigger for the truck came from the least likely source, Buick, which had built a test rig that borrowed the bones of the Chevrolet's compact S10 and reanimated them via a 3.8-liter turbocharged V6 lifted from the Grand National production line. It was an intriguing idea. Buick was about to lose the G-body platform that had given it so much performance with the Regal-based GNX, and the front-wheel drive replacement for the car wasn't exactly up to snuff in the go-fast department. Still, the head honchos at the Recon Center weren't keen on the idea of Buick suddenly getting into the pickup game. The concept was offered to Chevrolet, which passed because it had its own muscle truck in the mix, the SS454, and didn't want to steal its thunder. That only left GMC, often the odd man out of the performance conversation at General Motors, which was all too willing to see where a compact screamer might take them. While the GNX source drivetrain was already a wild take for a segment more used for a workaday four-bangers and torque-oriented V6s, it was nothing compared to what would be actually hitting the streets in production form. The GMC Syclone was a jaw-dropper when it arrived in 1991, and it still is a pretty potent package today, if you can find one, that is. Absurd performance. GMC's bigwigs were all in on the idea of a turbocharged pickup, but they had to have some engineering notes before the vehicle made the leap from concept to showroom. The first was the decision to swap out the 3.8-liter for a more modern 4.3-liter V6 that was offered in the existing and recently refurbished GMC Sonoma. Matching it with a Mitsubishi TD06-17D turbocharger, the unit was massaged with a L98 throttle body, borrowed from the Corvette, a Garrett intercooler, and a set of boost-friendly bespoken internals. All in all, the 4.3 would produce a whopping 280 horsepower at 350 foot-pounds of torque, which were multiples of what the standard Sonoma had to offer. Faced with the realities of unleashing this much grunt on the lightweight rear end of an unloaded pickup, GMC also elected to install a Berg-Warner transfer case that split output 35-65 front to rear, matched with a 4-speed automatic transmission. The inclusion of all-wheel drive was a game changer for the Syclone. Suddenly, here was a lightweight, over-muscled truck that could put all of its power down with nary a concern for traction. The numbers reflected just how much of a concern GMC's little monster presented to the established sports car harmony when it went 0 to 60 arriving in 4.3 seconds and the quarter mile disappearing in an unbelievably quick 13.4 seconds at 98 miles an hour. Just a few ticks over 4 seconds is still a very fast 0 to 60 sprint today. In 1991, it was absolutely ridiculous. Not only was the GMC Syclone the fastest vehicle in the entire General Motors portfolio, it was also capable of shaming contemporary Porsches and Ferraris and pretty much anything else wearing a license plate. Unfortunately, the public was somehow indifferent to the Syclone's ample charms, perhaps turned off by its $25,000 price tag, still tens of thousands cheaper than anything with comparable quickness, and its inability to actually do pickup stuff like tow or haul due to concerns from GM about its lowered suspension system and trailer-rated liability. A mere 2,995 versions of the vehicle, all in black, with an exception of a handful of Marlboro-liveried Targa roof specials, were sold in its single model year of production. Undaunted, GMC's engineers turned their attentions to a compact Jimmy Sport utility which shared its frame with the Sonoma and offered an extra dose of practicality compared to the single-cab pickup. The Syclone's mechanicals were transplanted nearly lock, stock, and barrel into the SUV form, and the assuming model was named the Typhoon, with a few extra paint colors added to the mix. Although the extra weight of the Jimmy platform would add nearly a second to the vehicle's 0 to 60 sprint time, it was still extremely fast for its time. Unfortunately, customers weren't any more receptive to the Typhoon than they were the Syclone, with a mere 4,697 being sold for the 1992 and 1993 model years. Shortly thereafter, the idea of a turbocharged trucklet was retired forever by the General. Approaching unobtainable status, it's a safe bet that GMC will never again be able to claim the worldwide performance crown, let alone do it with a responsibly affordable pickup truck. For those seeking past glory, it is now time to snag a Syclone or trap a Typhoon because the pricing trajectory for these trucks seems destined to continue its upward momentum. Top dollar for the Syclone currently sits at around $60,000 for a no-flaws example, while the Typhoon trails it. The difference isn't all that much. Taking into account the scarcity of these vehicles, roughly only 7,500 of them altogether, with the Syclone only making up 25% of that figure. The number of survivors over the past 30 years in the kind of condition one would want to collect is diminishingly small. We're not yet at the point where these vehicles are being bought and stashed as static display items in high-end collections, but that time is approaching. If you want to drive one of the fastest trucks ever built, and specifically one that will actually fit inside your garage rather than being exiled to the driveway or in front of it, your window on snagging a Syclone or Typhoon deal is on the verge of closing. Like I said, those things are sick. I've always had a big passion for those, any S10 in general, but then you get some of those super rare ones like that, really feel it here in my heart. I love those things. I would love to have one of each of those in my garage, as I'm sure many of you are out there, but maybe that day will come, but it's not going to happen today. With that being said, that's going to wrap things up for us. I hope you enjoyed. As always, stay positive, work hard, and make it happen.